I ruined my own wedding. And the worst part? I didn't even mean to. It started with a simple idea, a test of loyalty. Just one message to see if he'd take the bait. Just one tiny push to calm the storm that had been building inside me for months. Now, I sit here in a hotel room, the wedding dress still hanging in the corner, like some kind of ghost, and I can't tell if I'm mourning the relationship I destroyed or the one I accidentally created. My name doesn't matter. I'm 28. I was supposed to get married last Saturday. Instead, I'm here writing this because I can't stop replaying everything in my head. Every choice, every lie, every word that led to this point. It started with a change. A slow, quiet one. My fiancé, Ryan, had been distant for a while. At first, I thought it was just stress. He works in marketing, long hours, endless campaigns, too much caffeine. But then the little things started. He stopped texting me during lunch.
Stopped asking about my day.
Started keeping his phone face down.
Classic signs, right?
The kind you Google at 2 a.m. when your gut tells you something's wrong. I told myself not to spiral. We'd been together for 4 years, solid years, full of laughter, road trips, shared Spotify playlists, and all those little domestic moments that make you feel like you've built something real. But every night, I'd catch myself staring at him across the couch while he scrolled through his phone, and I'd wonder, who are you smiling at? He'd lock the screen if I looked too long. That's when I started keeping notes. Not in a crazy way, at least, that's what I told myself. Just small observations. Times he came home late. Names that popped up. Changes in tone. It's amazing how suspicion can turn love into detective work. About a month before the wedding, things got worse. He started saying he needed space. Space from wedding planning, from the stress, from me. And then he said something that broke me more than I expected. You've been intense lately. I just want to breathe. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding a mug of tea, trying to keep my voice calm. Intense? You mean planning our wedding? The one happening in 3 weeks. He rubbed his eyes. I just don't want to fight. We didn't fight. Not that night. But something inside me cracked. That's when I found out about the loyalty agency. Yes, it's a real thing, or at least a very online version of it. I'd seen videos, testimonials, TikToks about people who hire loyalty testers to flirt with their partners, just to see what they'd do. Normally, I'd roll my eyes at that kind of thing. But desperation makes logic optional. The next night, after Ryan fell asleep, I opened my laptop and started scrolling through a website that looked way too professional for something that should have been illegal. Confidential. Discreet. Ethical loyalty testing, the tagline said. I clicked contact us. His name was Ethan. At least, that's what he told me later. Back then, he was just a voice on the phone, calm, measured, the kind that made you feel stupidly safe. He asked for details. How long we'd been together. Why I was suspicious. What kind of test I wanted. I told him everything. That Ryan had been distant. That our wedding was weeks away. That I needed to know, not just for closure, but so I could walk down that aisle without doubts eating me alive. Ethan didn't judge. He didn't even hesitate. I can set up a test, he said. Usually I pose as someone casual, a friendly connection through social media, maybe through a shared interest or business contact. I'll document everything. He made it sound so clinical. Like surgery. Cut open the uncertainty, remove the infection. So it shut. I agreed. That night, I sent him Ryan's Instagram. He had about 1,200 followers, mostly coworkers and gym friends. Ethan said he'd reach out through a fake account. Something professional but subtle. A woman, he said. Pretty, but not threatening. The kind of person who'd make any man at least pause before saying no. I didn't ask for more details. I just wanted the truth. For the first few days, nothing happened. Then one morning I woke up to a message from Ethan. He replied, keeping it casual. No red flags yet. I felt both relief and shame. Relief because maybe I'd been wrong all along. Shame because I'd reduced my relationship to a sting operation. But a few days later, Ethan texted again. He's still replying. Flirty tone this time. Want me to keep going? My stomach turned. Do whatever you need to, I wrote. That was the night I stopped sleeping. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Ethan had made a mistake. He'd sent the first message from the wrong account.
To me.
I didn't see it at first because it landed in my message requests. But a few days later, I opened it out of curiosity. It was simple. Hey, I think we met at the Everhart Gallery opening last month. You looked familiar on here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I'd say hi. I laughed out loud. That's not how Ryan would reply, I thought. But out of boredom, maybe curiosity, I replied. Sorry, don't think I've been to any gallery openings recently, huh? My bad, he wrote. You've got one of those faces. Artistic. Memorable. Something about the message made me smile. It was harmless, charming, even. So, I replied again. That's how it started. At first, it was just small talk. Ethan, though I didn't know yet, said he was a photographer, loved cityscapes, coffee, rainy weather. I said I was a designer. We talked about lighting, about art, about things Ryan hadn't asked me about in months. I didn't realize what was happening until I caught myself smiling at my phone, heart skipping when his messages came through. The irony of it all didn't hit me until later. The man I'd hired to test my fiancé's loyalty was testing mine without even trying. I spent the next 2 days in a haze, caught somewhere between heartbreak and obsession. Every time Mark's phone buzzed, my pulse spiked. I'd become the kind of person I used to judge. The one who checks last seen timestamps, reads too much into one-word replies, and screenshots everything, just in case. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe it was the way he smiled while texting someone else, or how quickly he'd flip his phone face down when I entered the room. He'd been working late more often too, which, on its own, wouldn't have bothered me. But when I asked about it, he'd shrug with that easy confidence and say, "Just deadlines, babe." It wasn't the words that got me. It was how rehearsed they sounded. That night, after he fell asleep beside me, I opened Reddit. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Maybe reassurance that other people felt this paranoid before getting married. But instead, I stumbled across a post on r/relationships that stopped me cold. My girlfriend hired a guy to flirt with me to test my loyalty. I passed, but I broke up with her anyway. Thousands of comments debated whether loyalty tests were manipulative or justified. Most said it was toxic. But one caught my eye. If you really need to know, there are professionals who do this discreetly. Search Fidelity Consultant. I wish I could say I closed Reddit right there. That I rolled over, kissed Mark on the shoulder, and decided to trust him. But instead I typed Fidelity Consultant Services near me into Google. The results surprised me. There were actual businesses, some shady, some strangely corporate, offering discreet social engineering loyalty assessments. It sounded ridiculous, like spy stuff. But curiosity won. I clicked on one called True Bond Verifications. Their website was sleek, minimalistic, professional. No gimmicks, no neon hearts, just quiet confidence. A few testimonials glowed across the page. Helped me find the truth before walking down the aisle. Painful but necessary. 100% discreet. Would recommend for peace of mind. And at the bottom, a contact form. I filled it out without thinking, my fingers trembling as I typed. Name, email, reason for inquiry. I wrote, "Engaged, just want to confirm loyalty before the wedding. No contact beyond light flirting." I hit send. The next morning, I woke to an email reply. Subject, consultation confirmation. Hi Claire. We can schedule a preliminary call today at your convenience. Discretion is guaranteed. Liam R., Senior Consultant, True Bond. His tone was formal but calm, almost soothing. Still, my stomach flipped. What was I doing? This wasn't me. But I replied. The video call was scheduled for noon. I sat at my desk in a sweatshirt, trying to look composed. When the Zoom window opened, a man appeared, late 20s, maybe early 30s. Clean cut, dark hair, intelligent eyes. He didn't look like a scam artist. More like a recruiter. Hi Claire, he said, smiling politely. I'm Liam. Thanks for reaching out. Hi. I managed my voice tight. This feels weird. That's normal, he said. You'd be surprised how many people reach this point before a big commitment. You want peace of mind.
There's nothing wrong with that.
His voice was calm, deep, almost disarming. It wasn't flirtatious, not yet, but there was an easy warmth to it that made me lower my guard. He asked a few questions. How long Mark and I had been together, what triggered my doubts, what kind of test I had in mind. I explained everything, feeling ridiculous. I don't want anything extreme. Maybe just a DM, something casual like a test balloon. He nodded thoughtfully. So, you want to see if he'll engage? Exactly. Got it. He typed something on his screen. If you send me his socials, I can run a light background check. We never go in blind. That way we can match tone and personality to what he'd realistically respond to. I hesitated, then sent Mark's Instagram handle.
Perfect, Liam said.
He's active, that helps. He looked up from his notes. Just so you know, we operate with full transparency. I'll keep you updated at every step. I can even send screenshots before messages go out. It was strange hearing someone talk about this like it was a business deal. And maybe that's why I trusted him. It felt structured, not emotional. At least, not yet. Over the next few days, Liam sent me updates. He drafted the first message, a simple DM from a fake profile. Hey, I think I've seen you at the gym before. You look familiar, grinning face with sweat. I approved it. Mark didn't reply for 2 days. Then finally, haha maybe. I go to Fit Zone on 8th. You? I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. He'd responded. It wasn't incriminating, not yet. But the fact that he didn't ignore it, sent a chill through me. Liam reassured me gently. Totally normal. Most people reply politely. Doesn't mean anything. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. The second message was flirty, subtle, but suggestive. You should show me your routine sometime, winking face. I could use a personal trainer. Mark's reply came within an hour. Haha, you wouldn't survive my leg day, grinning, squinting face. I laughed, bitterly. I'd heard him use that exact line before. With me. That's when I made my first mistake. I texted Liam. Can we talk about the tone of his replies? I need to know how bad this is. He offered a call. When he appeared on screen again, I didn't expect how relieved I'd feel seeing his face. His expression was sympathetic, not judgmental. Claire, you're doing okay? He asked softly. I nodded. I just feel stupid. You're not, he said. You're human. And for the first time since this began, I felt seen. We talked for almost an hour. Mostly about Mark, but sometimes about life. He told me he used to work in behavioral psychology before consulting. That he'd seen relationships fall apart for less. He said something that stuck with me. Sometimes people test others because they're scared of what they already know. I didn't answer. Because deep down I knew he was right. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of guilt, but because of the way Liam's voice lingered in my mind. The next morning, he texted again, not about Mark. Hey, how are you holding up? You seemed a bit off yesterday. It was the first message that wasn't professional. And it shouldn't have made my heart skip. But it did. I told myself it was just empathy. Just someone doing his job. But a part of me, the part that hadn't felt truly seen in months, wondered if it was something else. And that's when everything started to unravel. It started with a typo. Or at least, that's what I told myself later. Liam had been sending me updates every few days, small screenshots of Mark's responses, summaries of their conversations. He was good at keeping things neutral, never pushing too far. But after the last exchange, he texted me directly instead of using email. Liam. Hey, thought you'd want to see this. He's been more active on the fake account today. He attached a screenshot, and below it, without realizing, added another message. Liam. You'd be surprised how different she is when she smiles. I frowned.
She?
So I asked. Who's she? A moment later, 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Liam. Oh, sorry. That was meant for my notes. Ignore that. But I didn't ignore it. Because the fake profile, the one he was using to message Mark, had a photo of a brunette woman smiling. And the photo looked a lot like me. Wait. I wrote. What photo did you use for the account? He hesitated before replying. Liam. A stock image. Don't worry. Nothing identifiable.
But I didn't buy it.
Something in his tone fell off. So I pushed. Can you send it? When the image arrived, I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't me, not exactly. But the resemblance was unsettling. Same hair color. Same smile shape. Even the faint dimple on the left cheek. She looks like me. I finally typed. He took longer than usual to respond. Liam.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. It wasn't intentional, I swear. The algorithm just picked it from a personality match search. I can change it if you want. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to tell him to switch it immediately. But something inside me froze. Curiosity, maybe. Or vanity. I don't know. No, I wrote.
Keep it.
Let's see where this goes. And that's when everything shifted. Over the next week, the tone of Mark's messages with a fake profile, Chloe, as Liam named her, became flirty. Harmless, maybe, but suggestive. Compliments about her smile. Comments about how fun she seems. It was like watching him build a connection from scratch, one that looked eerily like ours. Each time Liam sent me screenshots, I felt a mix of anger and fascination. Anger at Mark for playing along. Fascination at how easy it was to recreate the chemistry I thought was unique. Then one evening, Liam called me unexpectedly. I need to discuss something, he said, sounding tense. It's about your fiancé. I braced myself. He crossed the line, didn't he? Not exactly, Liam said. He's just opening up more. Personal stuff.
About you.
My chest tightened. Like what? He said you've been distant lately. That you seem distracted. He even mentioned that you don't look at him the same anymore. I laughed bitterly. He's not wrong. Liam didn't respond right away. Claire, he said finally, his voice low. You know I can end this at any time. You've seen enough. I want to see how far he goes. Even if it hurts? Yes, I said. Especially if it hurts. There was a long silence. Then, quietly, he said, You're stronger than you think. Something in his tone made my throat tighten. I almost thanked him, but instead I said, You don't even know me. He laughed softly. You'd be surprised how much you can learn about someone from their pauses. After that night, our messages became less about Mark and more about everything else. It started small, casual check-ins. How was your day? You get any sleep? Coffee or tea? But soon, it turned into conversations about music, books, and dreams we never told anyone else. He told me he loved rainy days because they made the world feel honest. I told him I loved airports because they were full of beginnings and goodbyes. I started waking up looking for his messages before I even checked Mark's. One night, after Mark fell asleep beside me, I stayed up talking to Liam until 2 a.m. It wasn't about loyalty anymore. It was about connection. He sent me a photo, not of himself, but of a streetlight reflected in a puddle. It reminded me of how we chase reflections and call them light. It was poetic, unexpectedly deep, and dangerously intimate. When I didn't reply, he added,
Sorry.
That was too much. But I didn't think it was. A few days later, I made a mistake. I'd been scrolling through our texts while cooking dinner when Mark walked in. I locked my phone too fast. He frowned. Who are you texting? Work stuff.
He didn't buy it.
You've been jumpy lately. Something you want to tell me? I wanted to scream that yes, I did have something to tell him, that I'd hired a man to test his loyalty, but somehow I was the one failing the test. Instead, I forced a smile. Just stressed. Wedding planning. He nodded, unconvinced, and walked away. That night, guilt hit me like a wave. I texted Liam. We need to stop. This isn't right. He replied almost instantly. I know. But do you want to? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could have ended it right there. Deleted everything. Gone back to being the woman who trusted her fiancé. But I didn't. Instead, I typed,
No.
I don't. That was the moment it stopped being a test and started being something else. I found myself waiting for his calls, smiling at my phone, replaying his voice in my head. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd hired a man to test loyalty and ended up failing my own. One night, I asked him, Do you ever get too involved in your cases? He paused. You mean emotionally? Yes.
He sighed.
I try not to. But sometimes you meet someone who reminds you what honesty sounds like. My heart stuttered. And what does it sound like? He hesitated, then whispered, like you. That's how I knew we were both in trouble. Because even if nothing had happened physically, something between us had crossed a line, something neither of us could unfeel. And when Mark finally proposed moving the wedding date up, wanting to lock things in sooner, I felt nothing but dread. Because I already knew what the truth was. I just wasn't ready to face it. I don't remember the moment I realized I couldn't go through with the wedding. Maybe it wasn't a single moment at all, more like the slow dripping of a truth I'd been avoiding, until one morning it flooded my entire life. I woke up next to Ethan, my fiancé, the man I was supposed to marry in 18 days. He was lying there, breathing softly, his arm draped over me like everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. I stared at the ceiling and all I could think about was Daniel. I hadn't seen him since that night, the night he'd come to my apartment to tell me the truth, to apologize, to say he hadn't meant to fall for me. But I could still feel the weight of his eyes, the trembling in his voice when he said my name like it meant something sacred. And I could still hear Ethan laughing 2 rooms away that same evening, texting someone he shouldn't have been texting, proof that maybe this entire test hadn't been a mistake at all. I'd caught him, the next day, deleting messages. He said they were work-related. I didn't even bother asking for proof. I just smiled, nodded, and pretended I believed him. Because pretending was easier than confronting the truth that had already burned a hole through my heart. But pretending came with a price. Every morning I'd wake up and check his phone when he showered, something I'd never done before. Every I love you from him sounded like a question now. Every kiss felt like a cover-up. And every time I caught my reflection, I saw someone I didn't recognize, a woman balancing 2 truths and one unbearable lie. The lie that I still loved him the same way. Daniel tried to disappear. I think he knew it was the only way to protect both of us. He deleted his business page, stopped responding to messages, even changed his number. But the damage was already done. He told me once, quietly, that people test loyalty because they don't trust themselves to handle the answer. And he was right. 1 week before the wedding, Ethan's best friend, the one who'd been helping with planning, called me and said, You okay? You sound off lately. I almost said everything. But instead, I said the same lie I'd been saying to everyone. I'm just tired. Tired of lying. Tired of pretending. Tired of missing someone I was never supposed to care about. 2 nights later, I ran into Daniel. By accident. I was leaving a cafe after meeting my maid of honor, and there he was, across the street, holding a coffee, looking right at me like the universe had decided we weren't done yet. He crossed the road slowly, his expression unreadable. Hi, he said softly, like he wasn't sure if he had the right to. I froze. Daniel, you look tired, he said after a pause. I've been worried. Don't. My voice cracked. Please don't. He nodded, swallowing hard. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come near you. I wanted to make sure you're okay. I should have walked away. But I didn't. We stood there, 2 people who destroyed the line between loyalty and love, caught in the middle of a street that suddenly felt like no one else existed on it. You were right, I said finally. I wasn't ready for the truth. He blinked. What truth? That maybe love and honesty aren't the same thing. He looked down. I never wanted to hurt you. I know. We stood in silence for a while. Then he said something that stayed with me long after he walked away. Sometimes, the test shows you what you already knew, not about them, but about yourself. That night, I sat alone in the apartment, staring at my wedding dress hanging in the corner. It looked beautiful, untouched, perfect, like it belonged to a woman who hadn't learned what betrayal really felt like. I took my phone, opened Ethan's messages, and there it was again, a text from the same woman he swore was just a coworker. And that was it. The moment the last piece of the illusion shattered. I didn't cry this time. I just understood. The wedding never happened. People asked questions. My family was confused. Ethan begged, pleaded, swore it was nothing. Maybe he even believed that. But I didn't. I couldn't. The night before I left town, Daniel texted me one last time. It was short. You deserved the truth, even if it broke everything. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Maybe breaking was the only way to start over. It's been 7 months since the day that should have been my wedding. 7 months since the flowers wilted in the reception hall that never got used, since the invitations went unanswered, since the dress went back into its box. 7 months since I stopped trying to explain myself to anyone who didn't deserve to understand. I moved out of the city, sold the apartment, found a quiet rental 2 towns over, a place with big windows and no memories. I told people I needed space, a mental reset. The truth is simpler. I just couldn't walk the same streets where I used to imagine forever with Ethan. People say heartbreak fades. Maybe they're right, but I think it just changes shape. It becomes something quieter, less sharp, more familiar. A background ache you learn to live around. I still catch myself checking my phone in the morning, half expecting a text from him. Then I remember that he's probably fine. Maybe even happy. And that's okay. He tried reaching out a few times after the canceled wedding. Long messages about how he messed up, how he still loved me, how we could start over. But I couldn't do it. I'd spent too long pretending things were fine, and I knew if I let him back, I'd start pretending again. And I was finally done pretending. I started going to therapy. My therapist asked me once why I thought I hired someone to test Ethan instead of just talking to him. I told her it wasn't about him. It was about control. When you've been betrayed before, when life has shown you that people can lie straight to your face while smiling, you start thinking you can outsmart heartbreak. That if you test it first, you can somehow protect yourself from it. But love isn't a test. It's a risk. Always. I think Daniel understood that from the beginning. I didn't hear from him again for months after his last text. I thought that was it, that he'd gone back to his life, to his strange little business of testing other people's love stories. Maybe he had. I didn't want to check. I didn't want to know. But then, one Sunday morning in spring, when the light came through the window soft and new, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name written in handwriting I recognized instantly. I opened it standing right there on the porch. I don't know if you'll ever read this, it said. But I wanted you to know that I stopped doing what I do. I couldn't keep testing people's hearts after what happened between us. I thought I was good at finding the truth. Turns out, I was just afraid of my own. It ended with a simple line. If you ever want to start over, not as a test, but as a choice, I'll be in Seattle. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Maybe both. I folded the letter and tucked it into the drawer where I keep the things that matter, the things that hurt too much to throw away. For a long time I didn't go. I kept living quietly, rebuilding piece by piece. I learned to cook for one, to spend Saturdays exploring bookstores instead of wedding venues. I learned that healing isn't linear. Some days you feel invincible, and others you can't even get out of bed. But then, one evening, I booked a ticket to Seattle. Not because I knew what I wanted. Not because I was sure of anything. But because I realized something I should have known from the start. That love, real love, is messy and unpredictable and terrifying, and maybe that's exactly what makes it worth it. I didn't tell anyone I was going. I packed light, took the letter with me, and watched the world blur past outside the train window. The sky turned orange over the horizon, the kind of sunset that looks like it's apologizing for ending. And as the miles slipped by, I thought about all the mistakes, all the wrong turns, all the ways I'd tried to control something that was never meant to be controlled. When I finally arrived, the city lights shimmered like a heartbeat. I didn't know if I'd find him. Maybe I didn't even need to. Maybe the point wasn't the destination at all. But as I walked out of the station, I saw him, sitting on a bench with a coffee in his hand, just like that first day I met him. Only now he wasn't pretending. He looked up, eyes wide, surprised but not shocked. Maybe he'd been waiting. I smiled first this time, and he smiled back. No words. No explanations. Just the quiet, impossible relief of two people who had broken everything only to find each other in the ruins. Maybe love built on lies can't survive the truth. But sometimes it can begin there,